Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me this time. I was just talking without my mic on, so that doesn't work. Um, but I wanted to thank you all for joining us this evening and being able to participate in this webinar. Giving a few more minutes for everybody to kind of clock in here. We have lots of people kind of coming in at the last couple of minutes. Tonight, this webinar is designed to talk about really the entire concept with YIVE, where the current software and the new software kind of meet, give you guys an idea of an ideal business model to follow going forward, and give you a little bit of background behind all the ideas for this, and help give a lot of you guys some direction, hopefully, for 2021. Also want to wish all of you a happy holidays, no matter what holiday you celebrate at this time of year. I hope you guys have a great one. And this is kind of my gift to you. Rather than make you wait all month, I wanted to give you at least a little bit better idea of what's in store and help you get prepared. So as we're waiting for the last couple people to log in, how about a few of you go ahead and let me know where you are, and wherever you are in the world right now watching this webinar. Put it in the chat, and we'll get going shortly. So it looks like we have Olympic, Washington, Richmond, British Columbia, Maryville, Tennessee, Rapid City, South Dakota, somewhere in the west coast of Canada, Stamford, Connecticut, London, UK. Well, I appreciate you joining me. I know it's really late there. Pittsburgh, PA, Arlington, Texas, Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Oklahoma, Utah, Colorado, San Diego, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Orange County, New York, Kuala Lumpur, Calgary, Alberta, Wisconsin, Ireland. It's late in Ireland too, or early, depending on your perspective. All right, guys. I think it's time to get started, and I'll go ahead and jump in. Just so you know, for the format this evening, we do have two moderators who are working with me, John Hogan and Diana Ratliff. John's going to be monitoring questions. And Diana is also going to be providing questions during the course of this. There is no sales pitch as part of this presentation goes. However, at the end, there's going to be a slide with a few URLs on it, 4 to be exact. Some things I'm going to be talking about in this webinar. You can certainly check out on your own, and you don't have to make the commitment to buy those at any specific time, but of course you have about a month before YIVE sites or YIVERanker are going to be open and available to log in. So this would be a great time to be preparing for when those are available for you to jump in and get to work. Let's get started. So I wanted to talk a little bit about YIVE and the YIVE concept, and where the web network empire comes from, where that phrase comes from. So basically, YIVE as the video software has existed for about 3 years. As many of you know, last year we had done a major relaunch in 2019, April 2019. And then we decided we had to reboot in the summer after a YouTube purge, and we actually ended up building a stacker system and merging all the apps together. What I've learned over the course of having this software for a year with the customers is a lot of customers approach me from the standpoint of this tool is great, I'm just not sure how I'm going to use it for my business. So there are a lot of people buying tools, not just YIVE, but other tools out there without an objective or specific use that they want to use the tool for. They just see a sales page, you read it, sounds great, the information on it is good, you can see where it would be beneficial, but you don't necessarily have a plan for it. And some people call that the shiny object syndrome. I get that to a certain extent, but the reality is that it is hard to sit down and figure out what's going to be an actual viable business plan for you to focus on. And if you spend any time in the group, I talk a lot about focus. And once you get focused and you focus on a singular business model to start with, and you find a way to make that business model profitable, you can turn your attention to other things. But the reality is, once you get your arms around a business model, you probably will go ahead and scale it. And what I've learned over, my 12, 13 years of experience having my own agency and working with lots of clients and lots of businesses, generating lots of traffic, lots of sales, using every tool under the moon to do that. The reality is that I have found that automation is the key to really being able to scale a successful business model, particularly if you're a one-man operation. Now, I'm fortunate enough where I have an agency and I have employees and I have VAs overseas and developers overseas. I have 3 different development teams. It takes a lot of money to support those people and support that business. And, we've locked into a lot of work and business models that allow us to be able to afford to do that. But I also recognize not everybody can do that. And the concept behind the original YIVE video platform was to make it easy for people who weren't techie to produce videos that could produce traffic that could produce sales. And it was a very simple 1, 2, 3 step. Number 1, publish to the most popular video platform on earth. Number 2, drive traffic from that platform to your offers. And then step 3, you want to make commissions from that traffic. And for some people, as I can tell within YIVE, there's a lot of you who have found your successful niches that you're sending traffic through using your video, the video system. So for most of you, you found success in video and you're happy with that. But there's a lot of you who are saying, there's a little bit too much risk in video and YouTube and how they treat channels. And yes, YouTube has gotten super aggressive in what they want to see from channels. They want to see a variety of videos. They want to see views actually being generated on their videos. Views are highly dependent on your keyword research. They want to see some originality from the standpoint of what's in your channel. And I think it's hard for some people to take the time invests a lot of research before making campaigns, and instead of making smaller campaigns that are more unique, they're trying to make really large campaigns that change very little across a lot of channels, and you know, they're not having as much success with that. They're doing fewer campaigns with more videos instead of more campaigns with fewer videos. So and there's a lot of people who don't, you know, want to play that game with YouTube, and I understand that. So believe it or not, YIVE sites was a concept that we actually had halfway finished building back in 2019, during the summer of 2019, when we decided we needed to focus on making the YIVE video platform better. So we had already launched the 3 apps under YIVE video, and realized from the questions we were getting from people that being able to help them automate websites would be a great idea. And so we had started building that platform, and then in the summer, the biggest issue was moving away from the YouTube API. And so we shifted all of our focus to combining the apps and improving YIVE video, and relaunching that product, which we did earlier this year. Once we had done that, we got Stacker fixed up and optimized, which took a couple of months. And it came down to, all right, we got to go back to YIVE sites and our SEO platform, YIVERanker. Now, YIVERanker has been around for a long time. We built it to use internally. And it's very much what we call purpose-built. It's purpose-built to do something very specific that we felt needed to be easier to do. Essentially, when we wanted to do a lot of DA and PA power via SEO, we needed the right kind of sites to do that, and we needed to automate it and make it faster and easier to do. And we ended up building our own niche networks to work with clients and work with affiliate offers, et cetera. And YIVERanker was built into that. Essentially, what we've decided to do is we've stabilized it, expanded it so it could scale, and we're making that available to the public. And YIVE sites was going back to what we discovered last year, which was that customers, you users, really needed some more power behind you, more assets. And if any of you saw my post in the YouTube group, or I'm sorry, in Step for Profit group, where I talked about assets, and assets are the key to building an empire. So we're going to talk about how to build a web network empire, what it is, and you know, what's involved in making that process work. So here we go. So when we talk about what is a web network empire, we're talking about specifically building your own automated network of content, traffic, and sales that runs 24/7, 365. Now, that doesn't mean you'll never touch it. It just means that once you set it up, you can walk away from it and it'll run. You need it to be able to do that, because basically you're a one-man show for the most part. Maybe you have a partner, maybe you have a couple of VAs. But the reality is, if it's not automated, you can't scale it. So you need it to be automated. And you need it to be able to do all 3 things: create your content, build up your traffic, and get sales. Secondarily, that network has to also take advantage of serving hungry audiences 24/7, 365. And that's a tough piece of the puzzle for a lot of people. How can you be on top of what people are looking for all the time and be delivering it to them every day? And that's tough, and that's where we need automation to be able to do that, to push that content out through your web network empire. So step 3 of that process is that you're pushing out content that's going to drive audiences to your network. And on your network is where you advertise your offers, you run ads for affiliate products, maybe AdSense or other ad networks. You're running that all on your site. The concept is that you're not building just one site. You're not building 2 sites. You're building a multitude of sites. and all those sites have a singular objective. So before I jump right into what that means, I'm going to use some terminology in what we're talking about today. So I'm going to talk about curated content. We're going to be relying very heavily on curated content. Most of you know what that is, but if you don't, basically we're going to be sharing and republishing content that's produced by other websites, and for the most part, it's designed to be shared. And I'll explain what that means when we get to that part. Secondly, I'm going to be talking about brand. Brand is important. Brand is one of those really important things that Google likes to see in SEO. Most of us don't really think in terms of building our assets around a brand. Some of us might develop brands in some of what we're doing, but most of the time when I see the assets that users show me to ask me to evaluate, there's no brand behind it. It's kind of a website that they've built, and it's a singular website with no real identity to it. And the thing is, like, audiences, people who buy things, they identify with brands and they identify with personalities. It's really important for people when they're buying things that there's some type of influence factor in them making a decision to purchase. And when a brand is serving an audience will come to rely on that brand. And as long as that brand is consistent, audiences will start to buy from that brand, and that's what you're looking to do. We're going to talk about syndication a lot. A lot of you know what this concept is, but basically we're going to be distributing our content to various other websites and social media accounts, which is where your audiences are going to find it. They're going to go through that discovery process. And we use the word syndication. So when we talk about RSS feeds, for example, RSS stands for really simple syndication. We're going to rely on RSS feeds a lot in building our network, because that's a big part of the automation channel, is having RSS content available to you. You don't have to understand everything you need to know about RSS feeds right now at this moment. Kind of sit back, listen to this presentation. We'll give you some guidance at the end of where you can learn a lot and do some research on RSS to understand it better, because we're going to be taking advantage of it big time once the platform's launch and the training is available. We're going to talk a lot about RSS feeds. And lastly, money site. Most people know what this is, but we're hoping to change your thinking a little bit from just having a singular money site in your network to having multiple money sites that focus on the same objective. And because there are multiple ways that people like to consume certain types of content, so having multiple money sites makes more sense. So one of the first things I always like to address whenever we're trying to get people to kind of change their actions is really focus on their mindset. Most people who are listening to this presentation right now, most of you are used to thinking in terms of keywords. And I'm not going to say keywords aren't important, because they are important. But really, audiences are more important. The reason Facebook's ad network is so popular and so effective is because its targeting is built around audiences. Obviously, you can do some targeting with keywords, but the more effective audiences, or the more effective targeting is audiences. So when we're looking at audiences, it's very similar to what you might see with Facebook ads, where monetization is based on what an audience would be interested in. You have to carry that over with all the assets you're building. And you have to think a little bit more high level from the standpoint of who your audience is and how your monetization will fit in with that. And we'll get into some specifics in our example. So one other important thing to understand in your mindset is that SEO in 2020, 2021, 2022 is primarily driven by your on-site technical structure, things like how responsive and how fast your site is, and how well you're structured the content on your page, and the social media power behind your website. I cannot overstate how important your social media halo is for your website. I've done test after test after test in SEO, and it is much, much more easily able to rank websites, particularly niche sites that have had a brand assigned to them and have a very strong social media structure built around them, than sites that are one-off niche sites that, for the most part, that's all they are. Google's relying very heavily on social traffic. They're relying on social signals. And they're paying a lot of attention to that as far as trying to determine how much people like a website. Backlinks are a form of that signal, but I have noticed that SEO signals, like social signals, are a stronger signal than just backlinks alone. Backlinks obviously still have some importance, but I'm beginning to see in my SEO tests that social media power is starting to outweigh just backlinks by themselves. So the last part of your mindset check is about how we're driving traffic. So when we start out, particularly when we're trying to still generate SEO power for our site, when we're trying to get that initial traffic flow, all that traffic and our design of our network is really designed to flow from social media. And that over time, as you flow more traffic from social media, you can start powering up your site with backlinks, or your network of sites with backlinks. And it has to make sense. You can't have hundreds and thousands of backlinks to your website if you're not getting any traffic. And really, if you're not getting any social traffic, it doesn't justify it. So you have to think in context of these four items in your mindset, that these are the concepts behind building your network. So I also want to make clear a couple things. Number one, for this strategy, you don't have to use YIVE sites or YIVE video or YIVERanker to execute on this strategy. There are, there's WordPress, there's free blogs, there's uploading to YouTube on your own, there's other video tools. The reality is that these YIVE tools are designed to give you automation, and essentially make it much easier if you're a person working by yourself and you don't have a huge team, and you're not techie, to be able to build the network that you need to build. Number one, the platform technology is there, and number two, the training is there for you to understand how to put all these pieces together to build the network. And that's the advantage that YIVE brings to you. During this presentation, we're going to recommend a couple other things. One is some training, and one is another tool that we use that we feel are what you should be using as well as YIVE. I'm not a person who emails out to my list of customers about buying every tool that launches. Most of you are on my email list, and you rarely get an email from me ever promoting someone else's product unless I really think it's a great product, or I think it's they have an offer going that you should take advantage of. And I want to stay true to that, where I'm only suggesting to you things that I actually think you should buy and can make this strategy easier to work. So lastly, the big point that you can do all of this manually, but automation is what allows you to scale and build up your empire. So automation is really the key of what YIVE brings to the table. So what is a concept of a traffic funnel? So essentially what we have is multiple layers where we get to our money site. And in this particular example, it's a very simple multi-layer traffic funnel. So at the bottom we have, it can be an e-commerce store, it can be an affiliate store, it could be a landing page, it could be any number of things that's your quote unquote money site. In this particular case, to simplify this, we're showing one money site. But above that, in the other layers, you'll see there's a news site, a news aggregator site, two different types of blogs, and then a news magazine style site. And above that, you'll see YouTube channels that are, and another tier that flow traffic to these different different sites in your network. The idea is that you have a variety of ways from that second layer of sites to get people to your store. You can use banner ads, you can use links, you can use pre-roll videos, whatever, every single medium that's available to you, you want to be promoting your affiliate store. In other words, your second layer of sites is designed to show content, and you have several different media types that you're showing, but you're not selling anything on those sites. Instead, you're aggregating your audiences, you're engaging your audiences, and at the appropriate time, you're showing them your offer so they can click over to your page and take action. And this is a simplified version of a small network and what that looks like. The bigger picture, though, involves where does some of the additional traffic we need come from? So, for example, we have all the social networks, the primary, I shouldn't say all, the primary social networks where we have YouTube, Instagram, Facebook groups, Twitter, all designed to funnel users from those accounts into your different layers of your funnel. You'll notice that none of them are really set up to go directly to our money site. It's not that they can't be, because your money site should have a brand attached to it and should have social accounts attached to that. But your audience drivers need to come through various channels. So some are going to come through news posts that are being placed on Facebook from your news aggregator site. They could be tweets that are being published from your news magazine site. They could be photos that went on your blog that were posted to your Instagram site where you're advertising your blog. There's, and of course, videos being made about articles that are on your news site, your blogs, and put into your YouTube channel that are flowing people back to those sources. And the idea is that each of these sites in that second layer is producing content that gets fed to their social networks, and that those social networks then feed traffic back to them. Now, where you really have to understand is that, you know, a single news aggregator website, for example, that's in the second layer of your network actually might have multiple groups that are supporting it. And when we get into our example, we'll talk about that. But you have to think beyond, say, having one group that serves one of your websites. When you start thinking in terms of audiences, what are all those things those audiences like? And you might have 4 or 5 groups where you're posting that content and it's feeding it to your news site.
Marcus, I have a question.
So in other words, we're using multiple social accounts that are able to then send traffic to multiple parts of your network. I think most people, they set up one Facebook group and one Instagram account, one Twitter account, one YouTube account, and they try to get those singular accounts to do all the lifting, when in fact there's really no limit to the number of posts or number of accounts you can have actually syndicating content from a site to, and then redirecting that traffic back to that site. Looks like Diane, you put your hand up. I'll go ahead and let you ask your question.
Yes, I think you answered it. You were referring to groups, and that different groups could be being fed by
you might have to turn your mic on.
It shows that I think it's on.
I can hear you, Diane.
Okay, I asked about groups. You were referring to groups being multiple groups being fed by a news site, and I didn't know what you meant by groups, but I think you said you meant Facebook groups. I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here, but I can't get Diane's audio to come up. So I guess, okay, so Diane is typing her message to me. Basically, yes, the groups I'm talking about are Facebook groups. And we'll get into, when we talk through our example, we'll get into what I mean. Facebook pages and Facebook groups kind of work together. You need both. We'll talk about why a little bit coming up here. But the reality is, for example, if I had a news blog that was about celebrities, I would probably have multiple Facebook groups about different celebrities or different subspaces within the celebrity space that were feeding traffic to my singular news site. So you would be syndicating content from your news site based on category. So a category could be a specific artist or specific actor or actress, and that content gets fed then to that specific Facebook group. So that group is sending traffic for that category, and you can have different groups for different categories on your news site. And you can do that with all these sites in this network, where within the content you're linking to your money site, or you're running banner ads to your money site, or you're running videos that advertise your money site. You want to have a mix of media that you're running people from these target locations into your money site. Okay, so keep going here. Okay, so let's talk about traffic flow. We've talked about a network of sites. We've looked at a simple network, but really, how does the traffic flow? So the way we get traffic to flow is we're going to be finding RSS feeds about the content we want to serve to our audience. We can look at news sites, blog sites, wherever we find the content that's going to be fairly consistent to serve to that audience. We're going to feed those RSS feeds to our own sites, and in YIVE sites, part of the platform will automate taking those feeds and converting them into posts. Once all of that content has been converted into posts, the RSS feed from your network site gets plugged into a syndication system that takes content from that feed and publishes it to your social media accounts. So things like Zapier, Integromat, Buffer, SocialBee, these are all tools that can syndicate for you. The one tool we're going to talk a little bit more about is RSS Masher and VidPenguin, which can do syndication for you. RSS Masher has additional capabilities as far as building RSS feeds for you. So it's definitely something we're going to talk about a little bit more in an upcoming slide. But basically, the idea is we're going to use RSS feeds to put content on our sites, and then we're going to use our site's RSS feeds to syndicate that content to our social media accounts. And we can syndicate our RSS feed to multiple social media accounts, including multiple Facebook groups, to make sure we're extracting maximum traffic from our social accounts back to our site. So once we've begun syndicating our own content, the content that we publish on our sites and our network, we're also going to be plugging those feeds into YIVE to be able to produce videos and publish them to YouTube, so that all of our news and content is also being created into video and linking back directly to our network sites. And then of course we want to add pre-roll to warm up our audience to our money site brand that we're going to be also promoting on our network sites when they arrive. We also want you to look at not just each site in your network, having content on it, but you also want some of your sites to be plugged into ad networks and some to have affiliate links and some to have other ad networks on them. But each site in your network needs to be monetized in a certain way, or in a way that fits within your network. And some of those monetizations will be different from layer to layer and from site to site. So we have to think creatively based on the type of site we're rolling out, what kind of monetization we're going to have on that site, or how much work do we want to put into actually driving as much of that traffic to our money site as possible, which we can do with links or banner ads or what have you. Ultimately, the idea is that all our traffic should be flowing from social through our network sites to our money site ultimately. And that's what we're trying to build. So I know a lot of you are thinking in terms of RSS feeds. You're concerned, like, where am I going to find this content? Where am I going to find RSS feeds? First of all, nearly every news site has its RSS feed published and available for you to use. Same with a lot of the blogs, particularly any blogs that are built in WordPress. A lot of the most popular blogs that are out there are built in WordPress, and there's a available feed, which is very easy to find. And then that type of thing will be available in the training. You can also go on YouTube and watch videos, lots of videos about finding RSS feeds on YouTube. RSS or YouTube channels have their own RSS feed, and you can find content within YouTube channels that you can plug into with RSS. You can also, and most people don't realize this, but you can build your own RSS feeds from Instagram posts, Facebook pages, and Twitter feeds. And if you are able to syndicate a Facebook group post to a Facebook page repost, then you can actually have an RSS feed of your Facebook group as well. So there's a couple layers there from the standpoint of how, and there's a couple steps to building RSS feeds for each of these, because none of these in and of themselves give you RSS feeds. You actually have to build them. And then there are tools for doing that. We are actually, the tool we were using for building these, on November 18th, they took it offline. So we actually found a version of it that they were using for running their online service. We found it. We've been able to download the code for that, and we're actually going to set it up on our own server for you guys to take advantage of as a self-hosted system. So they were just tired of maintaining it, and so we're going to plug it into our system. Most likely on the YIVE site side, it'll be available there. And then another thing you can do is you can mix and, or remix, if that's a better word, and tweak RSS feeds from different sources and put it into one single RSS feed using RSS Masher. Now, I'm kind of underselling RSS Masher because it does a whole lot more than that in how it helps you build an RSS feed. I would say right now, if you were going to invest in a tool for the next 30 days and learn something about how to maximize RSS feeds, RSS Masher is the tool. There's a couple of users in our group who are very experienced with RSS Masher and would be happy to give you some time consulting with it. I think Garen Green's one of those guys in our group that does that. I know he does presentations with the RSS Masher group, so he's considered an expert on the topic. So if you were thinking about a tool that can maximize productivity with RSS feeds. They have a great training. They have a mastermind training as part of the system for RSS Masher, and the training is worth the money itself. Helping you find feeds, helping you mix feeds, and then also how to rebuild feeds, like, you know, being able to swap in content, being able to create money hooks in your content, creating templates with content, and then we take that feed, plug it into YIVE sites or WordPress or whatever you want to, and be able to produce content on your site from your RSS Masher feed. So definitely going to be worth taking a look at. So let's talk about an example of how you would go about starting a network. So let's assume for a second you were interested in promoting health and beauty products. It could be hair care products, could be cosmetics, what have you. You would want to build a network of websites that are updated with content focused on celebrities and entertainers, because number one, there's always trending content that people are looking for, and that's really a key to making a successful network. You want that network to always be pulling new content that is trending. Trending content tends to be things that are about personalities and brands. There's a lot in the entertainment space and in the sports space, you know, movies, music, sports. The thing is, you don't have to be promoting something in entertainment. You just have to be promoting something that aligns with that audience who would be looking for that. So, you know, whether it's, you know, for example, if you are interested in promoting cosmetics from a particular brand, and you've built an affiliate store of that brand's cosmetics, and you want to drive traffic to it, well, you're not going to just run ads to certain audiences without people being able to understand what that brand is. So you've got to build this social halo around your brand. You've got to build your networks of sites around the brand, and you have to find blog and news feeds and search engine feeds about personalities that people follow that would be interested in your cosmetics brand. So for example, for younger audiences, maybe looking at Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Camila Cabello. Other than Taylor Swift, I don't know who the other two are. My daughter told me that they're popular, so I guess they are. And you're going to build social feeds from Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Camila Cabello, using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube content. So you're not only finding text content, you're finding social media content, and you're building feeds. Then you're going to feed all that content into your curated sites. These can be video sites, they can be blogs, they can be news magazine sites, news aggregators. You're building a network of different kinds of sites where you're feeding this content. So you might have a blog in your network that only talks about Ariana Grande, and another one that talks about Camila Cabello, and another one that talks about Taylor Swift. That's 3 different sites in your network, but they're all designed to do the same thing. Their content will be focused on trending content for that particular person. And then, of course, the social content for those people would be what you would be feeding into your site. Same with any news type of content that would come in, or blog content that comes in. So in step 4 of this example, you can also pull RSS content from certain keyword resources and lightly spin it and add it as additional content to your site. So you might be looking at, you know, on a blog, a niche blog you have about Ariana Grande, and, you know, based on the types of hairstyles she uses, or different looks she has at her different shows, you might be able to do some keyword research, find out what those things are, pull content and add that as additional content in those sites that also links into products on your money site. So in part 5 here of our example, you're going to be using YIVE to build videos from these content sources as well. And you're going to link the uploaded videos back to your blog or money site or both. You have opportunities for multiple links there. And of course, I love pre-roll. It's what I sell the most of anything digitally. And I would include pre-roll of a brand that I'm selling on my money site. So again, I want to take the opportunity and warm people up to the brand that I'm going to be promoting to them. In part 6 here, I talk about Zapier, but you can, it's your tool of choice. Zapier does have a free level where you can actually, you can make multiple Zapier accounts. You can have one Zapier account for each blog you create in order to be able to syndicate your blogs and video content to your social accounts. Remember, we're creating a loop where we're pulling RSS content in, we're reposting to our socials in order to get those socials to send that traffic back to our site where our content is posted. So to build that loop, you need syndication, and Zapier's obviously a great tool for that. There's also Integromat, SocialBee. It all comes down to what your budget is, and Zapier has a free level. So I'm a big fan of Syndlab. I know we've had some issues with their API and our video system. We're working on that to be able to include that as part of YIVERanker. But the ability to syndicate your content to other branded Web 2.0s. So note the word branded in there, which is, part of the social halo. Yes, we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube is your kind of base social accounts, but in the social sphere of your sites, there's also other types of Web 2.0 sites that are considered social, like WordPress.com, Tumblr, etc. And you want to also have those types of sites set up within something like Syndlab, where then your RSS feed can then be syndicated to Syndlab to automatically post out to those branded Web 2.0s. The thing about that is that's not always going to get you traffic, but it will start to build you a respectable DA and PA over time. It also starts to build your backlink profile naturally. And what I mean by that is it's gradual based on the amount of content you have. And it starts out with a few posts and you get a few links. And I can tell you this, that if you start building backlinks to your site and you haven't been getting backlinks from your own social accounts on a consistent basis, that's almost not believable to Google. So they are definitely looking for a very big social backlink profile before they start to give more credence to a broader backlink campaign of more Web 2.0. So just keep that in mind. When we get into YIVERanker's training, we're going to talk a whole lot about syndication of content, your branded Web 2.0s, and we're going to talk about bigger niche blogs that we publish to through YIVERanker that begin to provide a lot more value from a DA and PA perspective once you've got that social base down.
What is DA and PA?
All syndicated content sends the user to the website or blog in your network where the content was originally posted. So the whole concept here is we're taking other content that we know people are going to be interested in. We're publishing that to our website or blog. We're sending that to social media, and then we're getting that person or that audience within your who's observing your account to discover that content, click through, and end up on your website or blog in your network. And hopefully clicking on an ad or a link to your offer, your money site. And frankly, we have to build this loop and make it constant. So it's got to be publishing content every day, like we said, 24/7, 365. So I just got a question from Diana. Apologize for going so fast. PA and DA we're going to talk about in YIVERanker's training, but it's page authority and domain authority. These are still very big ranking factors from the standpoint of really how much authority your domain is accruing. So that's a lot of that comes from backlinks. A lot of it comes from social. Moz, SEO Moz originally came out with those metrics as a way to measure domain power when people buy expired domains. There's a lot of people spend time looking at DA and PA and the number of linking domains as reasons to buy those domains because they represent authority and power. I happen to feel like page authority is a little bit more important than domain authority, but they're still important. And again, those are concepts you don't have to necessarily understand right now, but you'll learn when we get into YIVERanker and the YIVERanker training. All right, so continuing on, we're in part 9 here. On your network of sites, the user will see your ads from your ad network or banner ads for your promoted products or your affiliate store. So essentially, you're going to be promoting your money site all over your network, and you're going to do it with links in your content. You're going to do it with pre-roll video. You're going to be doing it with banner ads. You could be promoting specific products, or you could be promoting your affiliate store brand. It's your choice. But the whole idea is to get the click over to your store. And the idea is if you have a lot of sites in your network, a lot of posts in your network, a lot of circulation of new posts to your Facebook groups and Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, over time, you will start to see a very consistent flow of hundreds of visitors a day to your offer for free. You're not paying for those clicks. And some portion of that traffic actually converting into a sale. The idea behind a store is you can always change the products that are in the store if you don't think they convert well, as opposed to necessarily being married to promoting a specific product. However, if you feel strongly about a product, you know it converts well and it converts well in social traffic, then you want to stick with it and just work on your positioning on your money site page. Under number 10, again, what I was just talking about is having dozens of posts going to your active social accounts every day. Again, you need volume. We talked about this with YIVE video, needing a volume of videos. You need a volume of content going to multiple social accounts every day. So if you're going to have an affiliate store and you're going to have one Facebook group, Facebook page, Twitter account, Instagram, YouTube, yeah, you'll get some clicks. But really, if you want to grow that volume, you need more sites, circulating content, more groups, more social accounts, all pointed, all trying to drive users to engage with your offer on your either your network sites or your money site. So the primary traffic driver that I look at is Facebook groups. Facebook groups are highly engaging. The necessary part of having a Facebook group and being able to actually grow that group without spending money is having a Facebook page where it makes it easier for people who like your Facebook page to get invited to your Facebook group. So you want to start a page, for example, it could be a page about Taylor Swift, and then you will have a group to go with that page about Taylor Swift as well. People like the page, you invite them to join the group, and they do that. You try to use brandable names when you create your group so that people think that the group sounds interesting. And you want to be posting content that isn't salesy content. That's why it's important to have this network of sites that are focused on content and not selling anything. Because then the content that you push to your group and your page and all your social accounts is more interesting content, and it's not salesy content. Essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to make your Facebook group a cool destination for people who like these people. In this example, it could be pop music, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande. People want to visit those groups and see the latest content that you're posting in those groups about those people. and click to get the full story on one of your network sites. And that's another opportunity to get someone to look at your offer. So one thing about Facebook groups I'm going to touch on here is that there's a process for growing your Facebook group that really is key to do it right. And if you don't start out doing it right, then you're going to have problems keeping people engaged with your group. There is a URL at the end of this presentation to a training guide on how to build up a successful Facebook group. That guide is written by somebody within our Step for Profit group. I've talked to him about it quite a bit. He had already put together a training based on something I wanted to do, and I thought, well, it's one less thing I have to do. So, you know, I read through the training. I think it's excellent. I think it's exactly what you should be following in order to build up your Facebook groups. And that's something you can begin to work on as you look at the next month of what you're going to be doing. What's the product you're going to promote? What's the audience you want to build? How many different Facebook pages and groups can you build up? Same with Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and get focused on building that whole social network that you're going to be publishing to. You don't have to actually take them live until you have your sites ready to go, but you at least want to plan out what you're going to do and how you're going to go about doing it. And so you can build Facebook pages, build up your likes to Facebook pages a lot of ways. My preferred ways is to pay for likes, which I do by buying Facebook ads. That's the best way to do it. It's a great way to kind of prime the pump, get the right kind of people engaged with your page, and therefore get the right kind of people in your Facebook group. It seems like, you know, I said no payment. You can certainly grow your Facebook page likes with no money and not spending any money. It just takes more legwork by sharing your page a lot of different places. But a like campaign, you know, for $5 a day will certainly do the same thing for growing those. But anyway, I just want to let you know, URL at the end is going to be that place where you can get that training. So continuing on and kind of close out what you're trying to do here. The whole point is to grow your base of social traffic and grow your base of syndication links to grow your authority over time. The days of being able to rank within a week and have it stick SEO wise, I think most of us know are long gone. But sites that have a very, very big social profile, both in the sense of social traffic, lots of social signals coming from social media, and then syndication links from all your Web 2.0s are going to really help you build the authority value of your site for SEO purposes. And of course, proper structures, speed, all those things make it important. And the beautiful thing about focusing on trending content is that Google's always looking for sites that it can show to handle trend searches. So even when your site is still growing and doesn't have a lot of authority, if you're able to serve up content that is trending, you're going to show up in search a lot because Google is hungry to show up, to show sites that have the answer to that user search, particularly when something is trending quickly. So don't underestimate the value of trending content and what it's going to do overall for your network. You want to keep looking for diverse content sources. You want to keep creating social accounts to attract these audiences. So there's going to be times where you think of another kind of audience channel, and you know you're going to find the content sources to pull content on that particular person. So you might be a new artist, it might be a new celebrity who's become popular and there's a lot of news about. You can go ahead and create another Facebook page and then create another Facebook group. Same with Twitter, Instagram, YouTube around that particular person. And again, have another avenue of traffic to be sending to your network. So you add another site or sites around that person and be adding more social accounts and driving them in. And of course, cross-linking your different sites will be able to, you will be able to see where you have users who cross over and like multiple people, and they start to get they start to associate these sites with your brand, and your brand will start to be a name they remember. So when you do get that brand seared in their memory, your banner ads will be a lot more effective. So when I talk about banner ads, if you have an affiliate store and you've created a brand for that affiliate store, you want to have ads that are essentially just graphics that are clickable, that can send traffic from your network sites to the affiliate store, any specific product on your affiliate store that you're trying to promote. And when your traffic flow is good, you always want to be testing and improving your banners. So, one thing I've always found with anything where we've done campaigns is that when we see things are going well, we will say, all right, so what else can we do better? It's always our banner creative can be better, our landing pages can be better. So we split test those and we try to improve them. So, you can always swap in and swap out banners just to see how much better they do at converting. And the beautiful thing is because they're on your site, and you control the site, you don't have to worry about Google's rules for your banner ads or Facebook's rules for your banner ads. You can put whatever you want on your own sites and get people to click. So let's talk about monetization. So all of your sites in your network can be monetized one way or another. So you can promote, obviously you can promote a product that is an impulse buy. A lot of these audiences, particularly in the entertainment niche, are going to be open to impulse buys. I see it all the time. Things that have to do with, the way people look, what makes people more attractive, relationships, all those types of things can be impulse buys. People are buying on emotion. So you can always feature those on any of your network sites. If a lot of people talk about like a sustainable business, an affiliate store can do that as long as you brand it, and that means coming up with a name and a logo, and you keep your products consistent. So, you don't want a scatter shot of different kinds of products on with a brand. You want a consistent feel for your brand that includes what kind of products you offer. So you don't necessarily mix cosmetics with shoes, right? You would look at maybe cosmetics and hair products could go together, but you might want to not do too much more differently than that. You don't want a hodgepodge of things all over your site. Once you reach certain traffic levels, you are allowed to join ad networks that pay really well. So a lot of you know, and the reason most people use Google AdSense is because it's not difficult to get approved, and you don't have to meet certain traffic requirements to essentially be able to run ads on your site. It's very forgivable that way. However, the best ad networks out there that the Outbrains and the Tabulas and the Rev Contents and I could go on. There's like 50 of them that pay really well and have really engaging ads. Basically, in order to join most of those networks, you have to have 10,000 visits a month. But the key is you only need one site that's getting 10,000 visits a month in a lot of these cases to actually be able to join the network. So if your goal is to be able to get in one of those networks, you might want to work on structuring your network to actually flow all your traffic to a single site, which is eventually the site that you get approved in the network. And then you can put those ads on all your sites that you want to put them on. Now, some of them will be a little more strict about how many sites you can put them on, et cetera, but most of the good ones, they're just making sure you have a volume of traffic and they understand what's on your site and your site is compliant, et cetera. So we're also going to be training you on a content monetization program that we're going to be including in YIVE sites, and that's going to grow over time, but we're going to start out with one which will essentially allow you to monetize any site that you have in your network. And I'm not going to give away too much information right now, but we're going to build the functionality to actually automate that for you. So essentially, there's a place where you're going to have to create an account, and within their within their dashboard, they'll give you a site ID, and you have to add that ID to your site on the YIVE site side. But essentially, that will turn it on for them to monetize your content. I've got a network of about 8 sites, 2 of which were recently delisted simply because a bunch of content got de-indexed, and I haven't paid any attention to it. But that network pays me about $200 a month on essentially 6 functioning sites that I don't pay any attention to. That money would easily pay for a lot of subscriptions to the tools that you're using to build your networks, and everything you make over and above that is gravy. If you've got 50 sites that you're monetizing this way, you're going to be making money, no problem. And we'll provide all the training for the best way to maximize what you make through that content monetization program. And it's something where there's a couple things you have to do in the beginning, but that are completely doable in a very short period of time to get them added to the program. So that's an exciting thing we're going to have available in YIVE sites when we go live. You really need to pay attention, and I think I mentioned this before, about what monetization options you're going to use with certain sites in your network. So again, you have to pay attention to the kind of site it is. So with a niche blog, you don't want it covered with banner ads, using it to primarily link off to your money site might be the best way to use that. Maybe one banner ad might make sense for that. But if you're doing a magazine or a news site, more ads is generally speaking more acceptable, as well as the fact that, the advertorial nature of doing content where you're linking off to one of your offers makes sense as well. You can promote different kinds of products that are affiliated. Maybe they're not on your niche store, but they're affiliated with the audience. It gives you the ability to test, essentially what kind of monetization is going to work for a specific site. But you should always be testing those options across the different sites in your network. And lastly, and this might seem obvious, but when you're looking for content sources or adding content sources, you really want to focus on supporting your audience so that you can support your monetization objectives. So if you get content sources that stray away from what your audience is interested in, you're only hurting yourself, because you won't attract that audience to engage with that content, and therefore you'll kind of be hurting yourself with your monetization. So essentially, again, the YIVE concept of building your empire, and what I try to tell people is focus. Get your first network built, get it driving revenue, and then you can start your next network. This is a rinse and repeat process, but really you shouldn't be moving on to the next network until you've gotten your other network optimizing to where it's starting to drive sales for you. And if it's not, you got to figure out what's wrong, learn from that, fix it, and then once it's driving revenue, start your next one. And that's when you can start scaling. The beautiful thing about building a network is that you're building usually a brand within that network, and you can sell that brand and all the assets that go with it to a buyer. And when it's producing revenue, you're talking a multiple of revenue. Even if it's something like producing $500 to $1,000 a month, that particular network, you could be able to flip a network like that for $10,000 to $12,000 pretty quickly. If you hold on to it longer, it's worth even more than that. So particularly with a lot of different sites in the network, it's a lot more valuable than just having one site. Having a lot of social accounts driving traffic to those sites is also going to be a lot more valuable. The multiples are a little easier to achieve. So again, I said there were going to be some links here at the end. Obviously, the first two links are the offers we already made regarding YIVE sites and YIVERanker. I mentioned RSS Masher earlier in the presentation. I think it's a tool well worth the money. Not only is the tool spectacular at building RSS feeds of custom content, but you can also get a great series of training that goes with it, understanding everything you need to about RSS feeds and where to find them. The last one is the training I talked about with Facebook groups. The beautiful thing about this training is I think it will take weeks and weeks and weeks of experimenting out of your schedule. You will be able to go right to, okay, this is what works. This is a process I need to follow, and get a group up and running very quickly. It's better than wasting time, and it's not an expense. It's a one-time pay deal. It's worth the money, in my opinion. It's certainly the practice I follow for how to go through that process, and we push clients into this process because we know for a fact that it works to get the type of traffic they're looking for, and I know it'll work for you. So I would definitely look at investing into that, particularly because, you know, there's going to be a month here before you're able to access a platform. You might as well maximize that time by thinking about your niche, thinking about trending content for your niche, thinking about popular celebrities or people within your niche that people like to follow, thinking about where you're going to get those feeds, how you might get your own feed set up, how you're going to build your social accounts, all that that your YIVE sites will be able to feed. So anyway, that brings us to the question and answer portion of this. I want to give people the opportunity here to ask some questions. I know some of you are saying that you could hear Diane and I couldn't. I don't know what's going on with me. I can't hear, so I'm gonna have to see what I can do here. Hey, John, can you say something?
I can. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. It would be great if I'd actually turned my speakers on. So that's why.
So the other part is I can't see any of the questions that have come through.
Okay.
So I know Diana had another question. I think you answered it, but I don't know if she can get on now. And
My
maybe
questions were answered.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to go through the questions that I see here. I'm going to go a little bit further up. Okay. So a question here about Pinterest. So there are some people who have an opinion that Pinterest is a good way to get traffic more so than Facebook. I think Pinterest is great. I would say that syndication to Pinterest is going to be probably a little bit more difficult. And so, you know, it's not something I would lead with. Certainly, if you feel comfortable plugging your syndication into Pinterest, go for it. They made a lot of changes to how you can use their API. They made changes to how their app connection works. So it's not as simple as maybe it was in the past. Next question is about TikTok. Yeah, we're working on TikTok as an option within YIVE Video. I'm not going to say too much more than that because there's a lot more. There's a lot that we have to do on our side to make that kind of work, and it involves more campaign types and things like that. But yeah, TikTok will be an option eventually in YIVE video. So another question is about RSS Masher. And I guess the best way to go through this question is the question is really about cost with RSS Masher. And I think, again, this is a mindset thing. I think, yes, if you go into RSS Masher and you're not exactly sure how you're going to plug it into a system, it's probably not money you want to spend. I think that's true with any tool. Until you know exactly what you're going to do with it, it's not the right tool. I think that's true with anything. We had people who bought YIVE video who, you know, in a customer discussion with them, I find out they really didn't have a plan for it, and it was the kind of thing where it's like you're better off, you know, coming back to it when you feel like you've got a plan for it, and then you realize how you're going to pay for it with revenue. So, you know, I understand what you're saying. I tend to think of it is if I've got a plan, then it's worth the money. That's the way I look at it. So, question about content, curated content as opposed to an IP issue or legal issues, and this is a question I've heard a lot, and as well as talking about duplicate content. That's the other word I was looking for. Hold on a second, I'm gonna take a drink of water. So basically, most sites that publish their content in RSS feeds do so because they know that their content can be syndicated this way. Most tools that allow you to do syndication will let you link back to the original source. And you can elect to do that or not link back to the original source. Most people do. What's interesting is if you go and look at news sites, they're almost always republishing something from the AP or another news source, particularly local news sites. They will republish content that comes from other news sources and actually not even link to them. They might credit them, but not link to them. And of course, that's the same thing you do here. And Google has already said they do not punish sites for content that is pulled from another site, and they do not punish sites for duplicate content. Now, the question specifically here is it a legal issue? And the example in the question is, what about using pictures that you don't have a license to use? Well, of course not. You cannot use copyrighted material that you don't have a license for. And the funny thing is, you have a case. I have learned through the hard way, I've learned you have a case if image content is being used in RSS, because the purpose of RSS is syndication of that. So there's also, you know, if you are truly concerned about it, you would want to talk to your own attorney. Your own attorney is going to say the same thing every time: don't copy anything. And that's just because, yes, that's the safest answer they can give you. But the reality is that if you are giving people credit, and it doesn't have to come in the form of a link, with the exception of Getty Images, who will sue your brains out whenever you use one of their images, no matter what. You know, you will have to get licensure for things like images that you're using. But with text, I've never heard of that. I've never had a problem, and I don't know of anybody else who has either. Images are a different thing. Well, John, if I like Ariana Grande, what I heard today scares me, so I don't think so. But who knows? My daughter might make me. Do you need permission from the content provider to use that with RSS? And again, I think I just covered that, but it's somewhat like embedding, and think of it like embedding a YouTube video. So when someone uploads a video to YouTube, it's their video, it's their content, but they allow embedding, which means you can embed that video on your site. The reality is that when a content provider puts their content in an RSS feed, they're basically saying, go ahead and syndicate this content. And that's what you're doing. Yes, there's going to be a replay. What's the best way to get all these social accounts? Well, you know, I do things the easy way and I have VAs create them. Some people create them on their own. The training that I have listed on this screen here, Start Your Funnel with Social. That is a step-by-step guide which you could give to a VA to do that for you. Do you need to be active in those Facebook groups? And that's the beautiful thing. If you're syndicating content, that is your activity. If you're talking about moderating the group, like if people start posting links to their own stuff and things like that, you probably want to have a VA who kind of goes through and monitors that kind of stuff, because it's going to happen. But from the standpoint of always having to go in and engage on every post and things like that, no, you don't need to do that. Will YIVE organize multiple Facebook accounts? No, we don't have any plans to do that right now. YIVERanker at some point will be able to connect to Facebook accounts, but that's not going to be right away, and it's going to be for a different purpose. Okay, so another question regarding using famous celebs and issues of trading off of people's name and success. Literally every single pop news site, let's use TMZ as an example, that's all they do. TMZ would not exist if they didn't trade off of celebrity names and talk about their, the problems they have or their success. That's literally all they do. And all of these popular culture sites do the same thing. They don't go out there and make up news about Taylor Swift, for example. They're re-reporting news they read about Taylor Swift, and they're getting eyeballs for that. That's literally what you're doing here. And, you know, honestly, celebrities, unless you're trashing them, they want their name everywhere. You know, and my guess is if you're running a site where it's kind of a fan site of a particular person, that you're not going to be trashing them. So I don't think you ever run into any issues unless you're trying to defame somebody. So. Yeah, there's a question about duplicate content. There is no such thing as a duplicate content penalty in Google. That's been the answer for 5 years. If the reality is that every major news site on the internet publishes duplicate content, and probably 80% of their content is duplicate. And Google has said so in a number of different venues that they do not have a penalty for duplicate content. So you don't have to worry about that. Are all the tutorials out at once? Yes, they'll be published. Unless we add a new feature later, then that tutorial obviously would come out when we add that feature. A network. And when I talk about a network of sites, I'm talking about a multitude of sites, which can include one or more YIVE sites, or it can include one or more WordPress sites. It doesn't really matter where they live, just based on how they're all being used within the network. The vision I have is just making it easy in one click to start a new website in YIVE sites, not having to worry about setup, hosting, setting up plugins, all that. Click a button, select what type of content you want to start adding, what automations you want to do for that content, set the rules, and it goes. You know, less than 20 minutes to get a site running. Will there be a replay? Yes. Can you give me timescales for products and training? I'm not sure exactly what the question is, but essentially the products are launching February 1. The training will launch at the exact same time. How many sites do I recommend in a network? I always think more or better, but I figure most people can build a good network for 10 sites or less. 25 site network, you know, can be if for a bigger niche. You know, of course, you could do that with less than 25 as well. I think it just comes down to how much trending content you can find, how many different sources of content you have, etc. You're welcome. Thanks. Can I show the network slide one more time? Yeah, sure. I think this is the one. I'm concerned about Facebook and depending on it much. I guess I'm not sure where that concern comes from. I have my own opinions on Facebook. You know, I don't love it, but I will say that it does send traffic and the traffic converts. So, you know what? You ride that horse till it dies. Certainly shouldn't be a reason why you don't execute on a plan. I don't think Facebook in a current iteration is going anywhere for the next 3 or 4 years. Will you be offering VA services? Yes. So I have not made an announcement on what our VA platform, anything about our VA platform. We've actually already built it. Part of what's required for us to launch is to finish all the training, which when we finish all the features, we can finish all the training. When I say features, I mean YIVE sites, YIVERanker. Then we've got to create all the VA training and the user training. Some of it overlaps, some of it doesn't. We'll put all of that, and then we'll recruit our VAs into being able to go through the training and being available for you guys to hire. Yeah, I'm not sure the next question. I don't understand. Yeah, I can't figure out what that question is. Can you give a focus on a monetization program, please? Okay, so, you know, I think a lot of people they don't have success with AdSense because they don't get enough traffic. And I think once you see from an AdSense perspective that you can make money with traffic and you can make more money by expanding your network, that you know, Google AdSense makes the most sense, right? And you can focus just on that if you wanted to. However, what you'll start to figure out is you're leaving money on the table by not at least promoting some affiliate products and not using our internal monetization program, and you'll start to diversify. And then if something ever happened to your AdSense account, you would know other things that are making money that you can actually tap into. I guess that's the best way that I can answer that question. So the question, start your funnel with social.com. Yes, that's where it goes, right? Correct. In case you're wondering, I'm using that redirect to track the number of clicks. Another replay question, yes. Okay, here's a good question. Not that the other ones weren't good. So this sounds like great for tangible products. What about building leads for things like insurance projects or real estate? It's hard to get someone to think, oh boy, I have to regroup on life insurance. Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to create a Facebook group about life insurance, right? So who buys insurance products? Well, it depends on what kind of product you're talking about. You have different you have consumer insurance products, you have business insurance products, right? So depending on what your agency or the agent you're representing, or because I do this, I actually, one of our verticals at our agency is insurance carriers. And yes, insurance is boring. My target audience is brokers. We're trying to get brokers to sign up with the carriers. But you don't want to go to a broker and say, hey, sign up for this insurance carrier, because they look at you like, well, when I need him, I guess I will. The reality is that when you're dealing with consumers, it's a little bit of a longer loop. You've got to engage them on something else. So for example, with insurance, depending on the insurance product, and you're trying to target consumers who say own a home or of a certain age, you want to be promoting information or content that is interesting to that age group of people who own homeowners. It could be DIY projects around the home. It could be, things about classic cars. It can be, working on your own car, working on your own truck. Believe it or not, these are great ways to build an audience that you can target and send to and generate a lead from. So what you're saying is, well, how would I generate a lead from that? Well, if you have a Facebook group where you're aggregating people who are similar, similar demographics, they own homes, they're of a certain age group, they're married, they have kids, that type of thing, and you're driving them into certain sites. Well, on those sites, you want to be advertising certain types of offers, which would be information, lead information products. So like when I market, if I market a consumer insurance product, I'm not generating a lead purely off of requesting a quote or something like that. I'm offering some kind of quiz or evaluation where they submit a name and email address, but the quiz or evaluation, generally speaking, creates a sense of urgency about a problem in their life. So sometimes you have to get a little bit creative on making the content connections that get people to your site, and then you have to have a creative way to get those people to engage with essentially a lead generator of some sort. It doesn't hurt also to run banners. I'm usually shocked at how well banner ads do with generating leads, particularly on sites where you wouldn't necessarily think anybody came to that site looking for that product or being interested in that product. But again, if you have the right ad with the right hook, right sense of urgency, those types of things will work. But again, I want you to think in terms of audiences. So when you talk to an agent who's trying to advertise his business, you're going to sit down and say, okay, who's your ideal customer? What do they look like? What's their age group? What are they interested in? Do they own a home? Do they have a family? Vehicles? What kind of thing? And you break down, you build that avatar of who that customer is, and say, okay, what other things? Are they interested in sports? We're going to have a group about sports. It can be baseball, hockey, football, whatever, what have you. And you can see which of the groups end up driving the kinds of audiences that actually turn into leads. Actually, by the way, in that insurance thing, I found out that one of the best groups for selling insurance was guys who fly fish. I don't know. I don't even understand the connection, but content that I was pushing, that our agency was pushing out about fishing, and specifically fly fishing, ended up generating the most leads for an insurance product we were promoting. That had nothing to do with fishing. Just FYI. Are there OTOs with Start Your Funnel with social? I'll be honest, there might be one. I don't remember what it is though. You don't need the OTO. Is Pinterest, okay, so this question about Pinterest again. Pinterest can be, and Zapier has some integrations for being able to do that. So the answer is yes. there are people who like Pinterest a lot, and I think if you have a visual type of audience, or an audience where you're getting to engage with some visual, yeah, absolutely, it can work. Again, a question about number of sites. I really think it's more based on how many different content sources you're going to build to drive people through your network. So if you're going to have 10 different celebrities, for example, that you're going to be pulling content on, right there, you're starting with 10 different sites potentially, or you're starting with 5 sites of individuals and 5 sites of mixed content. Like you can kind of base it on what you think makes the most sense. There's no hard and fast rule. But I think a network needs to have at least 5 sites. That's my opinion. Do you recommend linking back to the original site? It's your comfort level. Really comes down to what you're comfortable with. I don't link back to original sites. I will do a text credit, but not necessarily a link. Question, if you take an RSS feed from Instagram and republish on one of your social media accounts, web pages, isn't that a problem? No. RSS Masher can strip out and replace images for curated content. Yes, that's correct. That's a tidbit from Garen. Thanks, Garen. And the next question was about replacing images, and this is a huge reason why, as Garen mentioned, you want to use something like RSS Masher, because you can make sure any feed that you launder through RSS Masher removes any other copyrighted images and replaces them with your own. Does RSS Masher syndicate from Instagram? No. Currently, we found a tool that we were using that it enables us to do that. It's actually a 2-step process. We're actually going to be rehosting that tool to make it live again. I was able to do it through 2 other tools, but I didn't feel they were going to be sustainable as a, hey, go use this tool type of deal. So we're going to be self-hosting one as part of YIVERanker to pull Instagram feed. And the Instagram feeds, by the way, will be based on hashtag, not profile, because of the way visibility works on profile. Talk more about YIVERanker. It's really, really hard to talk about YIVERanker without doing a whole presentation on SEO, and that's going to be involved in the training. Potentially I'll do another webinar in January before we go live, where I talk more in depth about YIVERanker. I have a different perspective on backlinking networks, tools like SEO Autopilot, Money Robot, which, by the way, are good tools. Money Robot, is not my favorite. I think SEO Autopilot's really good. And that tool is built for really sophisticated SEOs who really want to sculpt what they're doing on their backlinks. But I built YIVERanker to make that all simpler, and to really cater to what I thought was important with the backlink projects we do. All right, another question on Pinterest, which we answered. Is it possible an embedded video from Facebook on your own website, the Facebook post is classified as worldwide? As far as I know, yes. I mean, I haven't run into that problem. Yeah, somebody's mentioning that they make bots that you can use to respond to Facebook comments in your groups. I don't actually use any bots, but yes, you could do that if you wanted. Yes, so the training will involve me building a network for you to watch me do. When will the one-time payment end for YIVE sites and YIVERanker? I don't know yet. Actually, I do know, but I'm not going to announce it. Yeah, I mean, it will last to at least New Year's Day. Will the YIVE sites accommodate custom URLs? If you mean private domains, yes. Yes, they will. Should we buy new domains or expired domains? Well, I always buy expired domains. Usually I try to buy ones that were involved in similar content to what I'm going to be using them for. I like them because they have higher DA and PA usually right off the bat, which helps with our monetization system that's internal. So my answer is yes, buying expired domains, and there's plenty of training out there all over for the tools that do that stuff, but I will be including that in the training as well. Do I think hashtags are important? Yeah, yes. I think to answer that question, I do think Google pays attention to those things. But if you don't have them, I don't think it's a big deal. Facebook sounds good. Can we please talk about how other social networks can be automated like this? There's actually a lot of them. I focused on Facebook mostly because that's where a lot of your traffic is going to come from, and it's good quality traffic that converts. RSS ground feed links, I think so. I haven't tried one of those in a long time. Will RSS ground feed links work well, was the question. I haven't tried one of those in a while, so I can't answer, how up to speed that is, but I think so. Okay, so one person keeps asking the same question about Pinterest, one of the social media platforms we would be syndicating to. All right, so I tried to cover this earlier. Pinterest can be included, and you can use something like Zapier for doing that. So yeah, depending on the content you're going to send to it, absolutely. Do you have to have the YIVE video subscription to be part of YIVE sites or YIVERanker? Nope, you don't need. You can have one, or you can have all three, or you can have two. It doesn't matter. Your funnel shows 7 sites. You're recommending 10 sites or more. How might that look? Okay. Well, for the sake of reducing confusion, we did fewer sites. So, you want to think in terms of your network and layers. You want to have a social layer. You want to have an intermediate layer with different types of sites, and then you want to have a money site layer. That doesn't mean that you can't have money sites in the second layer. But if you have a target site you want to be doing all this, promotion for, then that's in your final layer. Do either of the links have upsells? No, RSS Masher does not. It's just you choose your level. Start your funnel with social. You don't need any upsells if there is one offered for that. Yes, hip waders probably do make you contemplate your mortality. Okay, so YIVE site niches for cryptocurrency and RV motor codes. You can make whatever niche you want in YIVE sites. The content tools in there will accommodate anything. I think for YIVEranker is your question, and we use a little bit higher level from the standpoint of content. So something like cryptocurrency, yes. Something like RV motor coaches, that might be a little bit too micro niche for a single niche site in YIVERanker. So we might have something that's like RVs or camping, something like that. Okay, so question about giving text credit for RSS posts. So the short answer is yes. Longer answer is there's going to be multiple ways to do that. Obviously, that'll be included in the training. Any alternative for RSS Masher? I'm sure there is. I will tell you that I know Damon, and I know how Damon works, and I know the way he has thought through that tool. And the way I've used the tool, I can't suggest anything else to spend your money on from that standpoint. If you're asking me if I would recommend spending money on another tool, my answer is no. You mentioned Step for Profit group, Facebook group. Yes. You can always DM me in Facebook, and I will give you the link to join the group. Okay, question about what is that tool? Okay, that tool is no longer available. It was called Query Feed. You'll go on there and it will look like it will work, but as of November 18th, it doesn't. Okay, YIVERanker question, when the syndicate, we're getting into questions that are probably not applicable to this regarding YIVERanker, but syndication credits are essentially going to be one post to an account. Should we get RSS Masher prior to when YIVERanker opens? In my opinion, yes, particularly because of the training. You really want to jump into the training and learn how to use that tool so you can hit the ground running when YIVE sites and YIVERanker open. Yeah, on buying expired domains, the whole point of doing that training is to tell you what to look for. Yeah. Not sure what is meant on this question. Will the site builder be on the level of WordPress or Wix? Yeah, it's going to be closer to WordPress. It won't look too much different from WordPress. It's obviously going to look different from WordPress, but it's going to work and function similar to WordPress. Another user is commenting that RSS Ground is pretty robust for this sort of use. I'll be honest, I haven't used it in forever, so I don't know. Okay, amount of time it would take to start generating income from your source once your sites, 5 to 10 sites are up and running. If your monetization is in place and your syndication is in place, it all comes down to attracting people to your content via your page and your groups and your Twitter account, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. It's really dependent on how quickly you can be adding people to your syndication, social syndication accounts so that you can start putting your content in front of them. It's like if you joined Facebook and you had no friends when you joined and you were posting stuff, nobody would be clicking on your stuff. But as you start to get more friends, then all of a sudden you start seeing people like and click on your stuff. Do I recommend anybody to talk about Facebook accounts being banned? No. I guess I would have to know more information about why your account got banned. But if you're creating multiple Facebook accounts and I know one thing Facebook does is they look to see how real you're, you know, and how active your friends are, and if they're not, you know, they just get rid of accounts. Does it make a difference if the money site is in YIVE site or another platform? Nope, doesn't make a difference at all. You can put some of your network sites in YIVE sites, and you can put some in WordPress and wherever you want to. Self-hosted, it doesn't matter. Will I be able to migrate my YIVE site if I wanted to? Yes. It's an XML export that can be imported into WordPress. It's just the content that exports though. So obviously you would have to, you know, set up a theme and then import the content. How can one create celebrity site without using images? You can actually create a bank of images by going on YouTube, watching videos, and then doing screen caps of celebrities and videos. And then you can make a big bucket of images, and you can use those images in all your content. Is there an automation for making Facebook group? No, not the right way. Will YIVE sites be HTML? No, it's PHP. But the page, you know, like PHP does, will make it look like it's HTML. And the export will be an XML file. How many credits would it take for a network? Well, I think you're talking about YIVERanker, which runs on credits, and the network isn't really built in YIVERanker. It's built in YIVE sites. Somebody's asking about a specific app for posting. I've not tried that particular app. I'm not going to say it because I don't know anything about it. I suggest Zapier because they do have a free account where you can test that stuff. And there doesn't, I mean, using different Gmail accounts, been able to create a lot of Zapier accounts for free. So someone's asking this question, and I'm not sure if I said something that might have seemed incorrect. I believe you mentioned, but can I be part of a YIVE monetization network without my site being hosted on YIVE sites? When you go through the training, you will see that yes, there is a way to do it without being in YIVE sites, and it would just be up to you to set it up. What we did with YIVE sites is we automated it. Okay, so there's a question here about YIVE 3 starter plan and confusion about this not starting till February 1st. YIVE 3 was launched back in April. That's a different application. The YIVE sites and YIVERanker would open up on February 1st. Do you put all your Facebook groups in one account? Yeah. So I think people are trying to find out what's the absolute minimum they need to have a successful network. And here's what I'm going to tell you. YIVE sites, definite. RSS Masher, highly recommended. And then YIVERanker, I recommend. But if you wanted to start, you don't need YIVERanker right away. Particularly if you already have something like Syndlab. So That's the best way I can answer that question. If you're starting out, I suggest the RSS Smasher. If spend money on RSS Smasher before YIVERanker. If you really like, you have to cull down what you can actually buy. So in the training, are we building a network along with you? Well, that would be up to you. So when you watch me in the training, you can do it, at the same time. You're going with me. Actually, the training is not going to be live. It's going to be pre-recorded and broken up into pieces, and you just follow step by step by step. And that appears to be the end. I appreciate everybody hanging in there for as long as you did. I meant to do this for an hour. We're actually 2 hours in. So I appreciate everybody who hung in there and hung out for this. Anyway, again, I hope everybody has a great holiday season. John, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Two things. One, if you are still looking to add some niches to my list, go ahead, add them to the post that's out there on the group. And also, just wanted to say thank you, Marcus. This has been awesome. And the best Christmas gift ever. No, it really was worth the time to listen to you as you go through this. And I'm sure, like a lot of other people, will be reviewing this. And I just wanted to wish you happy holidays, and everyone on here happy holidays.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, John. Thanks, Diana, for hanging in there and throwing questions at me. I apologize that I couldn't hear you earlier, and sorry about that, guys. I appreciate all the questions you guys threw out there today, and for hanging in there for the whole 2 hours. Keep an eye on the Facebook group as we make more announcements coming up about the opening of the platforms. We'll probably do one more webinar in January, give you more information on YIVERanker, and gear you guys up for February 1st. That's all I got. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Have a great one, everybody.